welcome to the Behind the Tee podcast with Rob and Kelly. In this week's episode, we're continuing our conversation on all things fashion, curling related. So, if you listened to last week's episode, we talked about the history of fashion and curling and some of the notable events like the Norwegian pants coming onto the scene at the Olympics. Today, we're continuing that conversation with a different spin to it. We're going to focus more on all of the curling fashion faux pas that have happened throughout the years.
We wouldn't know anything about this. We're very fashionable, so.
Very well, at least we're fashionable today. If you listened to last week's episode, we did go through a phase of wearing oversized curling equipment, but that was fashionable for the time. So
It's hard to believe that garbage bag curling jackets were ever fashionable, but goes to show what I know.
hey, it was the early 2000s. Okay, there was a lot of questionable fashion choices back then.
That's right. I should point out, this episode was written by both of our moms. I was mentioning to my mom that we were going to do an episode on fashion faux pas, and she was saying, "Oh, here you go." She gave me a list of things to bring up, and then, funny enough, same thing happened with you, right?
And we know, like, our moms are both fashionable ladies, so they definitely know what they're talking about. Like, they're a good resource to have on hand.
That's right.
So shout out to them, one of our two listeners. If you have anything to add from last week's episode or things that you thought about that we didn't mention, feel free to drop us a line on our Instagram at behindthetee.curling or our new YouTube channel, Behind the Tee Podcast.
If you search Behind the Tee in YouTube and you scroll past all the references to it, because that's what it like with the scary clown, because that's what it thinks you're looking for. But no, if you keep scrolling, you will find us.
Yeah, so if you're listening on YouTube, feel free to add a comment down below, or you can also reach us in the old school way by email at behindthetee.curling@gmail.com.
And because this is kind of visual, what we're talking about, we will try to do our best to describe these fashion faux pas since we're in a non-visual medium right now. But if you're watching on YouTube, maybe we can figure out how to put up a picture, or we'll put up pictures of what we're talking about on Instagram so that you can say, I know, they're right.
I think a lot of these images too, you can do a quick Google search and they'll appear under the image tab.
That's right.
So
Most of them. I dug pretty
we'll
deep
do our
on a
best.
few of them.
So let's jump into, I guess, our first point. This one was suggested by my mother. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, but the first comment she made was, if you want to be a successful, especially male curler, you have to not have too much hair on your head, if possibly be bald. Because if you have, again, tongue-in-cheek, but it's true. If you have seen, or if you've watched curling in the past 10 years, a lot of the top teams, the skips especially, have all been bald. Most notably, Kevin Martin, multiple world champion, Canadian
so true.
champion, Olympic champion. Kevin Cooey, also from Alberta, he's very, very bald. Then Jacobs, not just the skip, but the whole team doesn't have hair.
Yeah.
Which you would think, also coming from Northern Ontario, Thunder Bay, it gets pretty cold out there. So, but at least they have those baseball hats that they wear. And remember that one year they came out, they started the season, and all of them had like a full beard, like they were bald on top, and then had a beard. It was a great look. It was a great look.
Well, it goes to show why I've never made the Briar.
Well,
I should
there
go
you
shave
go.
my head.
Because you should shave your head, or at least have, if you don't shave your head completely, at least have a very receding hairline. If you go even further back, we have Howard and Furby, who also, they weren't fully bald, but they did have quite the receding hairline. And all of them are successful curlers, so that just comes to show that if you are male and you want to succeed in Canada.
I wonder now, who is the hairiest Briar winner? There's a question that has never before been asked.
Asking the tough questions here.
Yeah.
I would think probably Gushue.
I guess, and he doesn't have a lot of hair. It's pretty short.
No, and here's the thing. I guess I would say Brendan Botcher's the next guy to come up. He's still fairly young. He's like our age. But I think he's gonna be the next Cooey Kevin Martin, like he's gonna have a very long, like a long career. But he
Once he
hasn't
cuts
like
his
he's
hair.
always yeah, and he's always so close to winning. He's made it to finals and just never wins, and it's because he has too much hair on his head. Just
Oh,
saying.
very interesting.
So Brendan Bacha, if you're listening, just try it and see.
I think that's good advice.
This might be a conspiracy theory we're just throwing out there.
But every week we have a conspiracy theory of some nature, so that's ours for this week.
And it's just history has shown that a lack of hair improves your curling game.
Yeah, the correlation is there.
Correlation's there. And as we all know these days, you make a statement that sounds factual, it must be true. So we're sticking with
On this
that.
show, anyways, for sure.
So if I'll move on to the second comment
Yeah.
that she made. This fashion faux pas happened a couple years ago. I haven't seen it. It didn't really catch on, thank God. But back in 2017 or so, Team Jacobs started this trend, and I think maybe some other teams also went in on it. But they came out wearing skinny pants or pants that are very like tapered around the ankle.
Hmm.
And we all know how chunky curling shoes are. Like there's no way to make them look good with a skinny pant. And it does not work. And I remember when we were at the Briar, it was something when they were playing at the Briar, it was something that everyone commented on and just like it just didn't look good. And especially the really stocky guys, so they're big on top and then those very skinny calf muscles and the big chunky shoe. It wasn't a good look.
Oh, interesting. I don't remember that as much.
I wasn't really sure what led them to the decision to wear those pants, but then I did a little research on it, and unfortunately, I didn't find a picture. But in that year, 2000, the season of 2017 to 2018, Jacobs partnered with Lululemon, which is a great sports brand,
Ah,
and Lululemon is pretty big with the women, as we talked about last week with the pants and the jackets. But Lululemon also has a whole men's collection, and some of their pants are tapered to the ankle. But obviously, these weren't designed for curling. But being partnered with them, I guess they chose those pants. And I'm sorry, Jacobs, it was not a
it
good
was not a good
decision.
partnership.
No, no.
Oh,
Or I don't know if they're still partnered, but like Lululemon also does have pants that aren't tapered, so just pick a different style.
that reminds me because you mentioned about like their shoes and the pants, the area between your pants and your shoes, and this is another one from my mom. So what is your opinion, Kelly, on white socks?
On White Sox,
Yes,
no
not the
problem.
baseball team. No problem. Okay. I'm not that I don't really care that much either, but this is something that my mom has gone,
Well, that's not where I thought you were going with this.
no. No, that's just one thing she's always told me, like never curl in white socks. I was raised on making sure that I never did that. I don't know.
What's
I
your
wonder if
problem
other
with
people,
White Sox?
I guess black pants, black shoe, everything is black and maybe having this big white area in the middle looks weird. I
Uh,
don't know.
I see you're going with the like for instance, it's not okay for guys when you wear a suit to wear white socks if you're wearing a black pant and a black dress shoe.
Something like that, but I mean, I'm not sure. So, mom, you can
Oh,
comment on our Instagram. She follows us now, so
ooh. That's not where I thought you were going with this. I thought you were going to talk about how a lot of the guys have started wearing colorful socks or socks with multiple patterns on
yeah,
it.
I did that. That was my kind of protest of that. If I'm not going to wear white, I'll do
And how did she take that?
okay. It was kind of like in the same vein as the Norwegian curling pants.
Mm.
Like I once actually, when I was in juniors, I got bored with my curling shoes and I took off the laces and I put in these really, really ugly, colorful, bright shoelaces.
Oh.
Yeah, which I don't know. I took some heat for it. A lot of people told me how much they hated it.
Mhm.
And it was like, hey, geez, lighten up. This is before Norwegian curling pants. So for all those haters, I wonder what they thought about them.
Well, I'm telling you, in curling, we're very traditional with what we wear, and you know, black laces was just the norm. Like you never wear anything differently on your shoes.
Yeah.
Um, I guess for the socks, it's not too surprising because I think the sock trend has definitely came from the mainstream trend. Like now, you like we're talking about suits earlier, and a lot of guys, their thing is to wear a funky patterned sock with their suits. Or the new trend, which I am personally not a fan of, is the sockless or the ankle sock. So it looks like you're not wearing any
Oh,
socks at
yeah.
all. That I am not a fan of.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried it's cold.
It is really
Yeah.
cold.
It's like maybe in summer, but not for curling.
Mm-mm, or just not in general. I don't know. For guys, it just doesn't work that well. But I will accept the crazy patterns. I think it adds, especially if your outfit is very generic, like solid one color, then it adds a little extra personality to it. So
And I could be imagining this, but I seem to remember, this was your team, took some heat back in juniors because one of you had socks that were really, really fuzzy and there were a lot of picks on the ice. And
oh, the fuzzy socks. Well, those were just popular in general back in 2005 where everyone had to have they're like really thick but not well insulated socks. And yeah, they're like little fuzzies and you could literally pull the fuzzies off the sock, but they would also fall by themselves. Um, so they were great in the sense that they kind of kept your feet warm and like filled up the shoe, but yeah, you definitely had like little purple fuzzies on the ice. Can you imagine like your rock picks because of your sock?
Yeah, I'd have a good excuse.
Thankfully, that trend has died. I don't think anyone wears fuzzy socks anymore unless they're like stay at home reading socks. Like that trend has died.
Yeah. So sorry, I think white socks are just not that bad.
What else did your mom have?
Okay, well, speaking of the color white, this is a shout out to Glenn Howard, circa 2006, 2007. I don't know if you remember, but remember their white belts?
Yes.
What's your take on that?
Also, not. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, like that was another thing that my mom pointed out was not a good look. But what I
Okay.
was, but, and I think I convinced her ultimately on this is that they weren't out there trying to say, hey, this is the new trend, this is the new look. No, they were out there in the same vein as the Norwegian curling pants, just trying to look a little bit different, less,
It's also more tame than the Norwegian curling pants.
yeah, and it was for fun. So,
And also too, like Ontario, they're all in black, or they're like the provincial colors are black and red, black pants. Like white is a nice way to add a little pop of color in there.
yeah. And so I think I made the argument to her that no, they're not trying to say that this is the way everybody should go. It's just they're
Mhm.
trying to be a little bit different and it's subtle-ish. And I think I ultimately convinced her,
It was a very simple belt too. It wasn't, it's like a basic white leather belt or leather-ish belt, and the belt buckle was very simple. It wasn't anything crazy or flashy. So I think it was a good
which is a
accessory.
bit of a letdown. If they could do it all again, I think they should have gone even flashier.
Oh, they should have. But I mean, a belt is considered an accessory, and I think and socks as well. So you can kind of get away with going a little crazier on those items as opposed to getting Norwegian pants or a very busy jacket or something like that.
Hmm.
So, again, I'm okay with the belt being white. As long as it matches the outfit. That here's the whole key. Like if you get an accessory that just doesn't match completely. Like if you have too much going on, like I said in the previous episode, like the Norwegian pants in themselves are okay, but when you add a jacket that just doesn't match the pants, like the colors aren't even the same, then we got a problem.
Yeah.
It all has to be seamless.
Okay, so we kind of agree on the white belts and the white socks. Sorry, mom. What I've tried to do now, Kelly, is I've gone through the depths of the internet. I've looked for pictures of bad curling fashion, and I've come up with a few. So I've not shared these with Kelly yet. So we'll see her reaction live on podcast. First few are kind of lame. This is just one that my brother pointed out that he made this point, and I once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it, and it had to do with when they redesigned the Briar and Tournament of Heart jackets a couple of years ago, because they've always everybody's kind of kept the same provincial colors over the decades, right?
Mhm.
But the template that they use has always been a little bit different. And a couple of years ago, they redesigned them all, and Now you're Kelly can see these jackets now, but
Yeah.
I'm showing the Alberta and the BC jackets.
Oh, I
And
thought it was the same jacket for, like, the female and the male for
no, these are yeah. So when they redesigned these, they have the exact same jacket for Alberta and BC. The color scheme is the exact same because down the middle, the torso part is all white. The only color is on the sleeves,
Yeah.
and Alberta blue and yellow. We all know that. BC though, they've colored slightly darker blue and yellow
The yellow is also a tad brighter
on the Alberta one,
on the
or no, on the
BC
BC
one.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, the Alberta one is more of a standard blue, like, if you look on the color wheel, like, just a basic blue, and the yellow is a little more, what color can we use to describe it?
Yeah.
Like a canary? No, not a canary yellow. I guess it's a basic yellow. Like, if you know how you have, like, if you look on the color wheel and then you have blue as a prime color,
Hmm.
and then you have yellow as the other prime color. I'm going back to my primary art classes. Like, they're just basically primary blue and yellow, whereas the BC one is a little darker and the yellow is a little more like a canary yellow.
Yeah, and we're looking at
But from a distance, and if you look quickly, they are very similar.
I don't want to I don't want to insult people who came up with this, but it's it's kind of bush league to me. You only have 12 teams at the Brier and Tournament of Hearts. Surely you could find different colors for each of them. Surely we could have two teams not wearing pretty much identical things. It's kind of like
They
having
could
a
have gone inverse and have it's hard to, well, here's the thing, because BC doesn't always have yellow in it. It's always blue is a primary color, then white.
Mhm.
But for these jackets, because the white is only in the center, and then you have these swooshy parts on the sleeve that need another color, and I guess the only other color for BC is yellow?
I guess, yeah. It's just I still invent another color or something. It's just ridiculous though to me to have such identical. The joke I made is that it's like having a football league with 9 teams and 2 of them being called Rough Riders.
For the Alberta jacket, I think it's fine as is. For BC, honestly, I think they should have removed the yellow and just have it blue and white.
Yeah, and they did change this template slightly. I think the next year they used the same thing, but the white part down the middle for Alberta just it became blue, so that there
Okay.
was less like you wouldn't get it confused. But just one more thing against this, I found a picture of this later. I don't have it in my PowerPoint
Oh,
presentation,
no.
but the names on the back of the Alberta jacket were written in yellow, so it was yellow on white.
Who was the designer for this? Like, the contrast is just not there. Like, you wouldn't, how can you read the names from far
I know
away?
it was so they fixed it up
Oh,
the
thank
next
God.
year, and fortunately you didn't need to read the name because you knew that it was Kevin Cooey. You knew that it was I think Chelsea Carey. I don't but
But the BC people, was it in blue?
I think so. Yeah. So BC at least you could read the names, but yeah, just poorly designed.
Yeah. I mean, the jackets themselves aren't bad. Like, they are pretty clean, but definitely you gotta get your colors sorted.
Yeah.
And yellow for BC, it just, I don't think we've seen it very often.
No, I don't think so. I don't know. We already called out BC last week for their lack of a crest. Get with the
Yeah.
program, BC.
I'm telling you, they're West Coast people.
That's right. Oh, while we're making enemies, let's make more enemies.
Go
Have you
for it.
seen Deadpool?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, I haven't, and I'm gonna. So everybody, I don't know anything about it, so everybody's about to get mad at me because I don't know the first thing about it. But my brother called these the Deadpool jackets. Here's a picture of Rachel Homan, and if you look at her arm, she's wearing the
Yes.
same jackets. You can't unsee it, right? It looks
Yes.
like this Deadpool character.
You can't, well, now that you have them side by side, okay, I see it, but I never would have guessed it before. Although I remember the year where they had these jerseys and I really didn't like them, like the
Yeah.
shirts.
This is the same thing as the BC Alberta identical things.
Oh yeah, it's too sporty looking. I don't know how to say it in a way that makes sense. Like, obviously it's a sporting shirt, but I don't like it when it looks like there's too many like swooshy like lines, and it just looks like,
It's too busy.
yeah. And
That was
this
my thought,
jersey
yeah.
too has, like, it's white in the center and then just the black sleeves with red lines all over. Like, it looks disjointed.
Yeah, it's too much going on, and then there were just things that I was like, "Well, I can't tell these 2 provinces apart," or, "I can't read that because it's in yellow on white."
That's true.
Just a bunch of things. Oh, and there was one more thing that was poorly designed with it. Let's see if I have it. Oh yeah, my brother pointed this out because he's done graphic design, and
Mhm.
he made a big case about this being a big fashion faux pas. And this is the same template, the Deadpool jackets, as I'm going to call them from now on. Um, there seems to
You
be
can
not.
get that you can get that trending hashtag Deadpool
That's
jacket.
right. Hashtag Deadpool jackets. Um, so this is a picture we're looking at now of Matt Wozniak. Um,
Also, Matt Wozniak, you were almost close to being successful, but you have too much hair on your head.
that's why I think they've did they run up in this Briar? Were they the runner ups? I don't
I
remember back
I
then.
don't know if it was this one, but McEwen again never won a title, but came very close to.
Yeah. And I should point out in this picture he's wearing black because black is not a Manitoba color, but they were the wild card team this year, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah, so this jersey is black in the center, black sleeves with gray and white. So boring.
Yeah. And my big thing with this that my brother pointed out, and once he pointed that I never noticed it, but once he
Mhm.
pointed it out, I was like, yeah, that's awful. Look at the Briar logo on his chest.
Oh, yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah,
The
it's
positioning of it.
yeah, the positioning is bad, and to me, it looks like somebody cut it out of on paper and pasted it because the area in between the letters is white. They haven't filled it in with the background color. And my brother pointed out that every team that had a colored jersey had this bad Briar logo where it looked like cut out paper. It looked okay if your jersey was white,
And you can see in this picture too, so on their right shoulder, there's the Tim Hortons logo, and
which they've done properly. Graphic design 101, as my brother called it.
but I also find just because of so in this one they have 2 so the center of the shirt is black and then there's 2 gray stripes that run along the side of the torso and then run up and join at the neck.
Hmm.
And I find with the positioning of it, it just of the logo, which is over his left uh like breastbone, it just looks out of place.
Yeah, especially with the gold line logo on the other side being like much,
Yeah,
much higher.
yeah,
Yeah. It's awkward. Yeah. So
definitely. It could be there's room for improvement.
there is, yeah. So we've we've dumped on these Deadpool jackets quite a bit. They were pretty recent though, weren't they using these up until like a
Yeah.
couple of years ago?
Yeah, and I think the thing that just doesn't work for me is there's like the torso part is relatively simple, but there's just so much going on in the sleeves that I just it doesn't work. And now that you've pointed it out, it does look a little superhero Deadpool-y. Maybe we can start our own line of curling apparel and name it Deadpool
Oh,
attire.
interesting. Yeah. But I think they're much better now.
I feel like it gets better every year, but there's definitely some years that come out and you're like, not
Yeah.
my personal favorite.
No, I think they got rid of this whole template thing recently. Well, they changed designers. Like I don't think Goldline does it anymore. And
No.
now it's what is it? It's Dynasty, right?
Is it?
I think it is, yeah. And I
Okay.
think they in the last couple of years they've looked way way better.
Mm. I'm curious to see what's gonna happen this year because of the whole bubble
That's true. Will we even
situation,
have like provincial teams or will it change format? That's
or would it just be teams? Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, discussion for another time.
Yeah, so what else do we have for fashion faux pas? Oh, this is one that my mom wanted to mention.
Oh, I totally forgot about that one. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
This is
so I
old.
defended Glenn Howard a couple of minutes ago, but now I'm throwing him under the bus. This is Glenn Howard from maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, back with Craig Saville and Brent. Oh, and that's Wayne Madaw instead of Richard
Wayne
Hart
Middaugh, yeah, Middaugh played with them for a
for a
couple
couple of
years.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, and I see they're wearing Balance Plus,
Oh, that's right. Sponsor us, Balance Plus.
but do you wanna describe the jacket that we're seeing here?
Yeah, so the picture that we're both looking at right now is the Team Glenn Howard, circa 2012, I'm guessing. Their jackets are bright yellow. They're sponsored by Weedman, which I'm guessing is a lawn company, landscaping or something. And at the bottom of their bright yellow jackets, there's really long grass that appears to be growing out of their pants.
Yeah, so basically the whole bottom quarter of the jacket all the way around is a dark grass green color, and then you see what are essentially pieces of grass kind of growing up towards the top of the jacket.
Yeah,
As
as my
to represent grass, and I guess the yellow is the sky or also the colors of Weedman, and it says Weedman in big green letters across the chest.
That's right. And I wonder, like, I mean, we know the story in curling. You take what you can get for sponsorship. But I'm just wondering if somebody turned on the TV and watched curling for the first time, and how are they going to take this seriously when they see Weed Man?
I mean, I hope they got a really good sponsorship deal out of Weedman,
Yeah, because we're not
'cause
going to
I mean,
anymore.
first okay, the jacket itself, it's a lot, but it's not terrible. I mean, the
No,
design, it works, but if you're in a curling club or a tournament and people come out with those jackets, like, they're gonna be noticed, like, they're gonna stick out. So I really hope that they got a good deal from Weedman to basically take over their entire jacket.
another quote about it, again from my mom, is it's like they're wearing Hawaiian grass skirts, but upside down.
Oh, it's so true. If you turn your head upside down.
Yeah, you could Photoshop this and totally make them look Hawaiian. Just flip the grass part upside down.
Well, I think the issue is that the pieces of grass are too long and too thick, so it
Mm.
doesn't really look like grass. Like, it could almost be flames. Like, if you change the colors to orange and then the top blue or something else, it could look as if your jacket's on fire. Um,
That might
it's
be a
just
cool look, like to have a jacket look like it's on
oh,
fire. I'm wondering.
yeah.
Some of these new templates that you can design, which are very expensive, are pretty crazy. That'd be an interesting look.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you have anyone on your team who has any experience in graphic design or fashion, and you have the budget for it, you can definitely do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm not like totally against these jackets, or teams adopting jackets like these, just as long as again they're cohesive and they work. I think for this one, it's also not too bad, just because they have the clean black shoes, clean black pants, and then black gloves, and the focus point is just on those jackets. And you can kind of tell they do have sponsorship on their sleeves from other
that's right.
companies, but it's pretty minimal. So like the whole look itself is pretty clean. It is very bold but clean. So it kind of works
Yeah,
ish.
like what I'm thinking looking at these is these look like comfortable curling jackets.
They do.
I know one thing I've noticed is that not that we curl competitively anymore, but the more recent jackets I've owned, I don't know if you'll agree with me, have been the more comfortable ones.
Mhm. Well, there's definitely been improvement in terms of fabric, and because the issue that comes with curling is that you want something that's warm, but usually something that's warm ends up being heavy and is not sweat absorbent and that. But you also want something that's like stretchy and comfortable, and usually those don't always mix.
Yeah, so this has got it going on. It checks all those boxes. It's just maybe the look is or
Yeah. They even have the matching brooms to go with it. So, like I was mentioning in
hey,
last
that's true.
episode, uh, how I like the Balance Plus, how the heads are like the head of the broom is white with the shaft being white, and then only having the color. And you had a choice of color at like for the end of the broom, and they
Yeah.
chose green, which is really nice. So it
Yeah.
just they
And I
definitely coordinated their outfit.
That's it. I just want to throw it out there too that I know we said last week we didn't really like the Asham style of shoes, but one thing I really like that I think it was Asham that did this is that they got into designing brooms for people. Now the brooms are, I mean, the shaft of the broom is what I mean. Sorry, the brooms generally are the same, but they started putting like provincial designs on the shaft,
Hmm.
and they were I thought a lot of them looked really, really nice. These days, I find the broom shafts look pretty lame.
Yeah, they're oh,
Like
again,
you,
there's, like, too much going on. I just not a fan.
yeah, no. But
I'm really
anyways,
curious oh, I was just to finish, I'm kinda curious to see because I don't remember, and it's not in this picture, but what their shirts are like under those jackets.
I think it was the same thing. I think they were matching shirts, bright yellow with the grass motif as well. Like, I think it was the same
Amazing.
thing.
That's
So, yeah, they were
amazing.
consistent. They went for it. But yeah, so I guess our consensus is that like it's a maybe a bit of an awkward design, but well carried out. Like,
Yeah. I think especially with things like this, it can be hit or miss, and there's not a lot of in between. It works or it doesn't,
yeah,
basically,
it's
and
still
a lot of personal preference.
yeah, it's modernish. Unlike
Mm.
I think the one that I have next. Let's see if this is it. Oh wait, yeah, this
Oh
is
my goodness!
remember this.
Yes!
This is Brad Gushue at the Olympic trials in oh when
This would have
this would
been
be in
2007? No.
2000 no he went in 2006, so this would have been in late 2005.
Yeah, this is when, Gushue, won the Olympic spot for the first time
That's
in
right, with Russ
Torino,
Howard when
Italy.
he teamed up with him. So it means Russ Howard had to wear this thing too. It is a bright, bright, bright orange jacket.
And I think for the trials, they don't, the colors are completely random. It's not provincial based. It's you have to
That's right.
qualify to the trials, and then there's a pre-qualifier too. So I don't know how they if there's a lottery on
I
how they
wonder,
assign the
yeah,
colors. Like, is it just completely random, or whoever's like first seed?
gets to
Not that there's
pick.
yeah, not really seed, but I guess whoever because there's like categories of how to get in. And if they start
Okay.
from the top,
Hmm.
so if you won the Brier in this year, and then the Scotty and the Scotties too, and then they kind of go down in prestige, and the pre-qualifier winners maybe get last pick, or it could just be completely random.
I wonder. That's very interesting because Gushu would have been seated very low at this. Apparently, he had not been. I don't remember this, but I was reading that he was still really really young back then, and he wasn't playing particularly well. They were considered really really big long shots, but once
Oh
they brought in
yeah,
Russ Howard, that completely changed everything. So maybe they got the last pick in terms of. I don't know if anybody competitive is listening. Let us know.
color we're looking at here is pumpkin orange,
That's
or
right.
not even pumpkin orange. If you live in Montreal, you definitely know this color,
I want to
construction
drive
orange.
around them.
It's
Yes.
construction
Yeah,
orange.
the trim is this gray color.
Yeah, and I remember these jackets. So they're pretty much all one color except for the trim that goes from the collar all the way down to under the arms, which is gray. Again, not I think it would have been nicer if they just went with white, but
Yeah,
if you were in the arena during these trials, like there's no way to miss this team.
no, and I will say this, I think the one thing they got right with this jacket is that they made the trim gray because we can joke in Montreal that they look like construction pylons, but imagine if they had made them black, then they really would have looked like pumpkins.
Oh, yes. Are these Mondetta jackets?
I think so.
Yeah, because Mondetta was making a lot of the jackets and stuff like that back then.
I think it
Like, they
is
were
them.
dominant for quite a few years.
Yeah.
Again, and they are it's also in that stage between, you know how we were saying the puffy jackets and then the straight cut jackets? It's a little bit like that. Like, it's not a fully puffy jacket, but it's not tailored
It's kind of in
to
the middle,
fit your
that's true.
torso.
It's a little bit puffy,
Yeah.
but I've seen so much worse.
Yeah, it's a little puffy and it has an elastic around the waist to cinch it in.
Mhm.
But I think overall it's pretty like again, I guess you can tell my style. I love simple, minimalistic looks, and this is simple and minimalistic. And they also got the logo right. If you can see, it's a little fuzzy, but it's a there's like negative space in the logo.
Yes, which is interesting because it came way before that Deadpool one we were talking about. So
Yeah.
they got it right back then. And I think these looked nice, just not the orange one. Every other team looked fine. It's just this is a bad color.
It's a very bright and bold color. I wonder how it was on I guess the TV screens back then weren't the best resolution. I mean, you didn't have 4K like you do now. Could you imagine watching that on TV with those bright orange jackets with the contrast of the white ice?
Oh, I know.
Like, that's
I
blinding.
I went to a hockey game once against the Philadelphia Flyers, who wear orange, and it was. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I bet a bunch of hockey fans are listening, going, "That's not true at all." But I was like, "Wow, that's the contrast."
And not only is the jacket bright orange, but the coach you can see on the right here has a bright orange jersey, and I think the jersey has the exact same pattern as the jackets, right? It has, again, like the stripe from the collar down to the armpit.
Yeah, I think it's the same, exact same look on the like Glenn Howard, same look on the shirt underneath.
I wonder if he still has that jacket
I
lying
wonder,
around
yeah,
somewhere.
because I'm thinking if I had that, I would want to burn it. But at the same moment, I won the Olympic trials in it. I might want it framed.
Oh, that's definitely
Yeah,
something you would
he for
frame,
sure still
and
has it.
the color is interesting enough that it makes for a statement piece.
Yeah, I would keep it. I would, but maybe in my basement or something. I don't really want to look at it every day.
Maybe you know those people who renovate their basements and make it into, like, a sport lounge bar area? That
Oh,
would be perfect for that.
yeah.
Maybe not in your formal living room, but
So Kelly, I remember last week, you commented that you really like the Swedish jerseys that they come up with,
are you talking about their national jersey or
or
the
just yeah,
Viking?
or no, I don't mean the Nicholas Edin. I mean the national Swedish
Yes,
team
I
every
love
year.
it.
Okay, well, I'll hear those comments and I will raise you this.
Oh my goodness.
So what we're looking at now, this is a picture of the Swedish national team from 1986. Yeah, 1986. By the way, I believe that is Anna Hasselborg's uncle throwing the rock.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Again,
and
as you can see here, no hair on the top of the head, so
yeah,
conspiracy theory continues.
and what a delivery he's got too. Like his arm is coming way up off the ice. He's holding his broom well into the air as he
A
slides.
good, like, 2 feet in the air.
And just to describe though, actually I kind of like his jacket, or maybe it's a sweater. I don't know. It's bright yellow. It's the Swedish colors and blue stripes, but yellow pants.
Oh, that's where they went wrong. I think the sweater itself is nice, and they also have the 3 stripes that go along, the sleeve, kind of, like the Adidas style. I don't know if they were sponsored by Adidas back then,
I
but it looks
wonder.
exactly like that. But I do agree the yellow pants are a little much. I think if they went with black pants, it
That
would
wouldn't be so
look a
bad.
lot better.
Yeah.
But then again, it's the '80s. No, I
Yeah.
haven't seen the sale either. And we all know the '80s were not known for their sense of fashion. But
No.
I have to say that slide is something, like, we do not teach that, anymore these days.
No, that's right. When I this came from, we were mentioning how we found a bunch of old games during the, during quarantine that people are putting on YouTube, and so I was looking for the oldest games I could find, and I found this one. So, and yeah, his delivery is really funny. Like, it looks like he's gonna fall or faceplant every time he slides.
I don't know, because basically his elbow is at a 90-degree angle, but it's, like, above his head,
Look it up on YouTube, 1986 World Curling Championship.
and also it looks like one of those wooden brownie brooms, and those weighed a lot.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, all his team is sweeping with corn brooms, so that's
Of
also fun.
course. I think that they need to do a retro curling challenge, or just take one of the slams or one, like, the Canada Cup, whatever, and just give everyone retro outfits.
I think so. And retro equipment. I have to add that.
Yeah, you have to Broomgate no longer, we're playing with corn brooms.
That's right. And I have to be honest. So I don't know if we mentioned this before, but Kelly sent me an article saying that corn brooms are getting increasingly harder and harder to find. And if you have one, hold on to it. It'll be worth something. And I've always kind of wanted one, and just not to play with, but just to, well, actually, yes, to play with once. And so I bought one and it came this week, and it's so cool. I love it. But I've tried sweeping with it, and oh my god.
It's a technique. I know my dad has one or had one, and I tried sweeping with it, and I just like it didn't work. The technique just I couldn't process it.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me. Let's go off the board here. What are your feelings, still fashion here, on these compression things that everybody wears on just one of their arms?
Oh, yeah. How did we not bring that up?
I know that's another thing my mom wanted to bring up. So
Um, I don't know so much about the compression part of it, but I can see it keep your arm like, it would definitely keep your arm warm, which would be good for a sweeper because it is always wear it on their dominant arm, so the one that is closest to the broom head and that they're putting all their pressure on, and is essentially doing all the work. But how I don't really know. I haven't looked at the data, so I don't know if it actually does anything to improve your sweeping.
yeah,
I know a lot of people in sports wear it. Like you'll see football players wear it and baseball
yeah,
players.
I see it a lot. It's weird to me to see it over one arm,
Yeah.
and it's kind of funny that we've gone through competitive curling and things have changed while we've played, but nothing too significant. But I'm trying to imagine like if we both went back into competitive curling and the first thing we had to do was go out and buy our matching team compression sleeves. I would have a hard time doing it without laughing. And some of them look nice now, like they've got the provincial crests on them at the Brier
Oh,
and Tournament of
really?
Hearts. Yeah, so they've done well with them, but I still
Yeah. I mean, there's no point in putting a compression arm sleeve on the arm that's basically just holding the broom in place. Yeah, I
yeah.
know. It's something I'll have to look into. I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah.
But it is a little weird looking, like, especially if you have, like, especially at the Briar, they wear t-shirts and you just see like one naked arm and then one black arm that has the compression sleeve on it.
Which again, yeah, how is that fashion in from a fashion sense when you've got different sleeves or one sleeve only?
It doesn't look good, but I guess you have the coolness factor of being like, I'm wearing a compression sleeve, so I must be professional.
I guess, yeah. Maybe that's why I don't like it because I think I know I'm not professional. I'm just trying to imagine what I would look like with one sleeve. People would laugh.
Yeah, and I mean, could you imagine rocking up in the club with a compression sleeve? Like, I
Well,
would
this is
roll
what I'm
my
gonna
eyes.
do. Yeah, this is what I'm actually you've just given me a good idea. So next year, hopefully, when we can get back to curling, because our club is closed for the season, I'm gonna roll in there with my compression sleeve and my corn broom. Because let me tell you, sweeping with a corn broom, now that I've tried it, is extremely difficult. And that's what I just roll my eyes at is that do you really need something to, I don't know, ease your muscles or whatever it is it does when the brooms are lighter than they've ever been before? I mean, think about these things, back in the '80s. They
Yeah,
could have used something to help their arms.
that's like the only thing I can see the compression arm things being useful for is just to keep your arm warm, because
Yeah,
that's like the important thing. You want to keep your muscles like warm and how do you want to say it? Like that you don't want them to be too stiff. So keeping that will keep it warm. But besides that, I don't really know what it
yeah.
does.
Oh, and what about this tape that everybody's putting all over their arms as well?
Oh,
The
the
body
athletic
tape or
tape?
athletic tape, yeah.
Yeah. Unless you like have an injury already, it's kind of pointless. I mean, I did a little bit of like athletic therapy back in the day. It was really good if you had like a chronic injury or like a pre-existing condition. And it would just help keep like certain joints or whatever you're taping in place. So one common thing that athletes would wrap are their ankles. So if you're prone to uh, twisting your ankle or you have like weak ankles or something, then that would make sense to tape. But
Okay,
after, like, if we did it for a soccer player or a football player, like after 10 minutes, it's like all loosen up. So it's more of a psychology thing at the end of the day.
okay.
And they have to get changed. So from curling, yeah, unless you already have like shoulder, because I guess one part of the body that we see often tape would either be like the wrists or shoulders.
Mhm.
So the wrist, it makes sense, because of the way you hold the broom, right? You're kind of in like a flex position and you're putting a lot of weight on it. So it can help there. And for the shoulder, if you have like an existing shoulder injury, then maybe. But you would have to like, especially for the wrist, you would have to change the tape, at least like the fifth end or something.
Oh man. Well, hey, I learned something.
Yeah. So it's more like a precautionary thing than a but if you're like
Okay.
totally fine and healthy, like there's no point in wearing tape.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of teams are just putting it on and
And I know when I did my internships with some sport teams, so I did it with a rugby team, and some of the stuff that we're taping, you can tell it we did it because it affected the psyche of the athlete. Like they felt confident with the tape on, even though we knew
okay.
like it wasn't going to do anything. So there's a little bit of a psychological aspect to that too.
Yeah. Athletes are not superstitious at all.
Not at all.
That reminds me of like the thing that baseball players, the black stuff they put under their eyes,
Oh
which I
yeah.
think scientifically has been proven does not do a whole lot, but
Isn't that to remove so, like,
the
the
glare,
sunlight
yeah.
yeah. Does it not do anything?
I seem to remember seeing like on MythBusters that it doesn't do much, but you know what? We're gonna test it. I know we curl indoors, but I'm rolling up. I'm telling you now, I'm coming up to the club next year with my corn broom, my compression sleeve, and my the black stuff under my eyes.
We're starting new trends here. I think I was telling you earlier how over the weekend, I was watching or kinda half watching the bowl games for college football, and there's one of them. It was in an indoor stadium. They were playing at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in, New
In New
Orleans,
Orleans, yeah.
and it was closed dome, and these guys also had, like, the black under their eyes, and I guess it's for the glare of the lights or something, but after at halftime, you saw some of them on the bench, and the black was just literally just spread all across their cheeks. Like, there was no black band left.
Hey, quick aside. One day we can do a podcast on. I know this is a curling podcast, but on those bowl games because there a lot of them were canceled this year because of COVID, but some of them have ridiculous names. And it
Mhm.
reminds me of when we're following the provincials, and I think it's if you win Ontario to go to the Brier, you win the Recharge with Milk Tankard. I think that's what it's called,
Okay.
or the Boston Pizza Cup or something. They all have like some pretty awkward corporate names. And my favorite bowl game from this year was the Duke's Mayonnaise Bowl.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah.
saw one, it was like the first immediate responders bowl or something like that.
Oh yeah. There's a great list of them. And oh, the Cheez It Bowl. You know
Oh,
those little
yes, the
Cheez It crackers?
cheese
And the best part is when the winning team won, you know how they dunk the coach in Gatorade? They
Yeah.
dunked him in Cheez Its.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah. And I think there was one more. Seem to remember last year because I think there was something Bad Boys Lawnmowers Bowl or something.
Wow.
If you own a lawnmower, make sure it's a Bad Boy lawnmower.
I also need someone to we can do a whole podcast of you just explaining to me how these bowl games work and how because it depends on where you're seated and, like, what conference you're part of.
Yeah, it's
Um,
complicated.
Because there's so many college football teams out there, and there's
Yeah.
no, like, ranking well, there's a ranking, but it's very
Yeah. And COVID
subjective.
threw a whole wrench in the way they
Oh,
operate too,
yeah.
so
Hey, maybe we can try and tie this in and for Curling Canada to use it for the national selection.
actually, yeah, that's, as we debate the formula of how we do things, maybe we should turn to college football. And just to wrap this all up, I guess, when we were talking about bad curling fashion, I think there's one thing that we discovered that stands above them all.
Yes.
So this is from an era at the Brier and Tournament of Hearts where same provincial colors that we all are familiar with, but they extended to the pants. So if you're from Alberta, your pants were bright, bright blue. And this is I think the worst one we have ever seen. This is the 1991 team at the tournament of Manitoba at the Tournament of Hearts. You can find this picture on Google if you want to see what we're talking about, but it'll be up on our Instagram and YouTube. White pants, white jacket with yellow in the shoulder area, and that's Kathy Overton Clapham in
And
there.
I also have to comment on the ladies' hairstyle. Again, this was
Yes,
what, in
they're
the early 90s?
yes. So by our logic, they didn't do too well because they have a lot of hair.
But yeah, like you said, the top half of the jacket is canary yellow, and everything below that is white, and the pants have yellow stripes going down the side. So I also saw an article from the Toronto Sun interviewing Kathy O and some other like top female athletes of that time, and they were commenting about those pants. And as beautiful and clean as white pants are, apparently they were very uncomfortable and see-through, which
Yes.
is a big problem in curling. And I can't believe nobody tested a squat test before approving these.
Yeah, this has to be the worst I've ever seen.
One, they were see-through, but the whole outfit itself was very warm and heavy and just like uncomfortable to play in. And I can believe them just by looking at this picture.
Yeah, and you were saying that when we think of Colleen Jones and who else did you have? Marilyn Bodo.
Yeah, and Sandra Schmerler. Yeah, so this article also mentioned these three ladies. They're known for wearing kilts. In curling, like females had two options: the pants or the kilt, which is traditional at the time because the sport came from Scotland, and Scotland they wear kilts, so it works. Um, but it wasn't super popular. Like not many people wore them, but these three ladies were known to always wear the kilt. And I thought it was just a fashion choice or a comfort choice or an homage to the traditional roots of curling. But actually, what they were saying in this article is that these, especially Colleen Jones, she wore the kilt because the pants were see through and so uncomfortable, and she didn't want to wear them, so she went with the kilt. So that's the story behind that. And now that pants have improved over the years, there's not that many female players we see these days wearing a kilt.
I just want to ask hypothetically because I couldn't find many Briar pictures from this era, but did the colored pants extend to the men as well? Like would the men's team from Manitoba have to wear white pants? And
Ooh, I don't
I
know. This
wonder
article only focused on the the women's team.
because if I had to wear that, I would maybe the kilt isn't so bad.
Oh, I don't know. Times were different back then. I'm sure these
Yeah.
days you can get away with it, but so that's the story of the kilt. I don't know. Maybe it's something that should come back.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember because it's not a podcast if we don't get in Randy Furby. I couldn't find a picture of this, but I remember like a long time ago at the Continental Cup, Randy Furby was curling with members of Colleen Jones's team. So that shows how long ago this was. And in one of the events where they had to play together, I guess it was either they probably had to have the same out or same type of pants or kilt. And so rather than Randy Furby, oh no, I'll play in a kilt.
But that's kind of cool. I wonder, did he wear tights with it too? Because
I think so.
that's my only problem with the kilt is that I'm not a fan of wearing tights, and I don't find them very comfortable. But you kind of have to wear them if you want to wear the kilt. So
Hmm. And it's just one of those things that I can't find a picture of, but I remember seeing as a kid.
yeah, I maybe there's a game on YouTube of
Yeah,
it.
I'm telling you, people need to take these curling things and put them online. It's really frustrating.
I'm sure there's someone out there who has a whole bunch of games recorded on VHS, or even like TSN must have a game vault of all the games they've ever aired or broadcast. Same
Yeah,
with CBC
just
Sports.
throw them online.
Yeah.
Let us dig through them. We'll be the only two views, but I mean, let us do it.
So I guess that's it for today's podcast. Again, if you thought of anything that we may have missed, or if you disagree with any of our fashion dislikes, feel free to leave us a comment on Instagram at behindthet.curling, or on YouTube at Behind the Tea Podcast, or keep it old school and send us an email.
Email is old school. Oh boy, do I feel old.
Well, now it is.
Yes. And thanks to our moms for writing this episode.
You'll get credits at the end of this. All right, bye.